A lot of the times on the way to our goals, we get roadblocks, and these roadblocks could be anything from like mental roadblocks, physical roadblocks, or like relationship roadblocks. And I think it's very important that we do not let our mind think that we can't progress anymore. You know, for your mind is whatever you're gonna do, whatever you believe in, whatever your mind is telling you. That is what you believe. You know, if you're telling yourself, "Oh, I'm big enough. I can't get any bigger than this," or "I'm fast. I can't get any faster than this," or "I'm not smart. I can't get any smarter than who I am right now." And that is for certain gonna make you not be able to progress past these stepping stones or these roadblocks or these very high steps that seem hard to reach. But a saying I like to say to myself sometimes is, you can't expect to grow as big as a tree, but only feel like you are gonna fill up a pot. You know, you can't, the tree's not gonna grow all the way if it's in a pot. You know, it's just gonna barely grow and sprout. You have to be able to root outside that. You have to be able to think outside of that, like think outside of the box, you know, as everyone says. But it's really harder than it seems. And I feel like there's a lot of good ways to do that. You know, reading books on psychology, talking to people about how they got there, people that are inspired or that inspire you to ask questions. You know, don't be afraid of being stuck. Don't be afraid of being like, I feel like I can't do it no more. And that's normal. Everyone who you look up to has had moments where they didn't want to do it anymore, or they felt like they couldn't do it anymore, and that they reached their max potential. But that's when you got to realize your mind has to make extra steps. You have to think that, no, this is just halfway there. I'm just halfway there. This isn't even 75% of my potential. I just got to take a different approach of it. If you're doing runs all the time and you're going in the same direction and back every day, and it seems to get boring or it seems to be too familiar, go the other direction. Run the other way. You know, go a different direction than you did. Approach it differently. But at all means, do not give up. Because one day, you know, it's going to be your last day. We all die. We're all going to die one day, and that's inevitable. But we don't know when we will die. Say it was tomorrow, or say you became paralyzed tomorrow and you couldn't move from the head down, you know? What are you going to do? You're going to think. You're going to have constant time of just think. And in that thought process, you're probably going to look back at how many years you lived and be like, did I take it for granted? Did I push as hard as I could? Did I do everything I ever wanted to do? And if you did, you're gonna find hope and peace that life just happened to you. It happened to you, but you gave it your all, you know? And that mindset is super important in growing. You can't just be an outside body show of physical fitness and whatever. You gotta be in tune. Everything has to be working with each other, yin and yang. Your mind has to be as strong as your body, and your body has to be as strong as your mind. You know, there's a saying that the rider and the horse, you know, the mental and the physical. The horse can't be more stronger than the rider, but the rider can't be more stern or too strong or aggressive for the horse. It just doesn't work that way. You got to be one with the other, you know, you got to feel it. You got to be in tune with every part you can of your mental and physical. And spiritually, I feel like it's very important to have beliefs, you know, to hold you back on your discipline on the days where it's hard. And that's when I feel like it's good to write down things. It's good to, in the positive times, write down why you feel positive. After you accomplish a goal, write it down. Write the feeling down on a piece of paper. So when you're feeling negative, you can come back to it. A lot of the times I have a hard time doing the things I hold myself to or hold myself accountable for. But a really good thing that helps me push through is looking back at all my old videos, you know, and it makes me smile, you know, like there was all those days that I got off of work late, you know, but I still came home. I ran as much as I could, and I came home and did a video. It didn't matter how late it was. It didn't matter if I was gonna get 7 hours of sleep and have to go to work the next day. What matters is you wake up in the next day and you're grateful for pushing yourself. The last thing I want you guys to do is wake up in the morning and not be grateful, you know, because you didn't do everything you thought you could have, or you felt like you didn't have time. And a lot of the times, we get roadblocks where it keeps us from doing our goals, but it doesn't keep us from being able to continue trying other goals. You know, you might break an arm, but you can still read, you know, and you might freaking have surgery, you can't move around a lot, but you can still read. And a lot of times, if you don't have time to read, you can still think. Think about the positive. Think about how you can change mentally. Think about different aspects of life. Observe people around you. Learn body language, you know. Learn how to communicate more. Be more social. If you're at work all day and you know you're not going to be able to go home and do anything, on that break, read a little bit. Watch a little bit of videos. If you can listen to things at work, like music and stuff like that, listen to motivational speeches on how to get past roadblocks in your head. I just feel like there's not a lot of change in not changing. You can't change if you don't change, and that's kind of fucking stupid, but it's real. You know, you can't just think about change. You have to do it. And that's the important part, is just doing things. Just because you can't give your mind the roadblock of, I won't be able to do it today, I'll do it tomorrow. No, no, think around that. Think around that. Think about what you could do today. Think about the things you are capable of doing today. And it might not be everything that you had planned out for that day, but don't make that stop you from doing at least few of the things that you wanted to do. And tomorrow, hit harder. Hit harder the next day. But don't stop going. You gotta keep on going no matter what. A lot of people may say, like, you know, you're not doing enough, or I thought you were doing this, I thought you were doing that. And they just won't understand. A lot of people aren't gonna understand the things you're gonna do, you know, because you're not supposed to talk them out 24/7. The more you talk out loud about your feelings, a lot of the more people are gonna hold you accountable in a lot of wrong ways. And sometimes our friends and family and close ones can hold us accountable in a great way. Like, say you wanted to stop drinking, and you're 8 days clean, and your friend's birthday comes around the corner, and you know you're like, hey, do you want to drink on your birthday and celebrate? And he says, I thought you were sober. Boom, perfect example of your friends or close ones holding you accountable. Let that be a sign. Let that be a good sign that I probably shouldn't do it. And a lot of the times when we're going into things that we know aren't good for us, and we get these signs of like, oh, we're not able to do them, let that be a sign to not do it. You know, I have problems with this even nowadays, where I want to do things, you know. I want to go drink sometimes. I want to go do this sometimes, but and they don't. And I do go. I try to go through with them sometimes, but then there's always just seems to be a roadblock to getting that. So I just take that as a sign. You know, I take that as a sign. Devon, that's a sign. Take that and go with it. Go do something else. Go distract yourself by any means, you know, whatever it means, in a good way. Don't distract yourself with bad things, but just think outside the box. Think around it. Be optimistic. Be clever, you know, be clever with your thoughts. If people are insulting you and things like that, think about how they're just not you. They don't understand you, and they will never understand you because they're not supposed to. Don't let those negative things hold you down. Change them in a way where it pushes you. You know, I heard a story about David Goggins and all the bad people who said he'd never do it, and like the bad comments, negative comments, he'd write them down, and then he would record himself saying them, and then while he was running, he would play it. And that's what we got to do with a lot of things in life. We got to take them, internalize them into a positive energy to prove not just yourself or others, but your mind, to prove to your mind that no one's gonna do it for you. And that's a very pushing thing, that if you don't change, no one's gonna make you change. No one's gonna force you to change. You know, someone might get you into something, but are they gonna, they can't keep you there. You know, they're not gonna keep you there forever. It's gonna come a day where you're gonna have to decide, damn, I don't wanna do this, but am I gonna still do it? And I feel like everyone should just revolve around these thoughts and these roadblocks and not get so stuck up on one answer, you know. Try to find other answers, try to find a different reason to keep on going. And a lot of times we have to switch up our thinking and change. You know, a lot of the perspectives I have change constantly, and I feel like it's a bad thing. But then I realize it's a part of changing. It's a part of growing. You're not always gonna feel the same like you did yesterday, and that's normal. That is the challenge. That is what is hard about it. The 4 days might be easy, but the fifth day you're hurt. Your legs hurt, everything hurts, and you feel like, oh, I gotta rest today. No, no. By any means, rest your legs if you have to, if it really hurts. But don't stop. Don't stop progressing in a positive way. Keep on going. Find other ways to improve. Become optimistic in other things, in the art and theater and music and poetry and physical sports, or just going outside, in nature. Like, keep on finding new things to be appreciative for the goals you have set. And if you have roadblocks, don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to reach out to people who are your role models. Because a lot of the times I feel like we're so stuck up on, oh, this person that I went to school with, like, I'm really impressed by them and I really want to be that. But I don't want them knowing that I look up to them like that, because that's on a guy way, for guys and probably for girls as well. When you're looking at a girl that you want to be like, it's demoralizing because we feel like we don't have the confidence ourselves and to do it. But that is not any of that. You gotta ask questions to learn things, and that's okay. But when you learn this information, I stress it not to teach it, please. Be open to others asking questions. Don't get on this pedestal and become above others, because a lot of times on the progress, a lot of people aren't going to want to progress like you, and you're going to be like, oh, they're not good enough. No, they're just not there. They're just in a different time right now. A lot of people are going through a lot of things where that's the only focus is feeding their family and taking care of their loved ones, paying rent. Don't bash these people down for this. Inspire them. Be like, that's good. I'm glad you're doing that. I'm glad you're doing that. You have any plans after that? Like, what do you want to do after you get all that figured out? Everything goes smooth. You start making more money. What are you going to do with it? Inspire them to think outside the box. Don't inspire them to be in a one-way lane of, you got to do this, or you should do this, or I'm doing this, so I think you should do this. If they don't want to do the things you want to do, that's okay. That is okay. But you don't have to ruin relationships because of that. And a lot of times you have to put people aside because they're distractions from your progress, and that's okay. But if people are genuinely good for you and mentally, and they really care about you, and you feel like it's either them or your progress, choose your progress, but by all means, let them know that it's not them. Let them know that, hey, you might not understand this. My common sense isn't your common sense, but I feel like I cannot progress and waste time calling you, texting you, hanging out with you, because I got an agenda to follow. And if they're truly, truly an understanding person and someone that's supposed to be in your life, they'll understand. And they'll watch from the sidelines cheering you on. And if not, a lot of the times they're going to hate on you from the sidelines. They're going to try any reason to bash you down. But for all means, please be nice, optimistic, and be nice to your mind, because whatever your mind thinks becomes true. And so stay positive and stay hard.